So I just got done reading tarot at an event, and I feel like feeling, because I want to, because it feels good, because this was transformative for me. This was powerful for me. I've been in and out of dissociation for the past 2 weeks, and I don't know if you can hear that. There's some kind of event taking place. People are cheering. Apparently that's a thing to celebrate. I'm going to take that cue. But this just, I started it feeling dissociated, and it just brought me back in. It connected me with people, with experience, with myself, because all of it is myself, right? And I have this new appreciation for fear. I was making an enemy of fear. And again, it's a lot easier to give the advice than it is to follow it. There are so many things that I know this shit. But applying it is a whole other world. And things slip through the cracks. There are blind spots. This has been a big blind spot. I've been making an enemy of fear instead of embracing it, instead of pulling it close, instead of befriending it, instead of recognizing that this is presence, and this is valuable, and this is something I want, actually. I've been resisting it. I've been trying to control it. I've been trying to push it away. And of course, everything you try to control controls you. That's just how it works. When you try to hold something at bay, when you're trying to push it back, it has a grip on you and is doing the same thing. And I've been trying to get away from fear, to get out of fear, to avoid it, instead of just feeling it. I've been telling myself not to, finding all the reasons not to feel it, finding all the reasons not to feel it, all the reasons not to feel fear. Sounds pretty logical on the surface, but at the same time, you can hear very clearly all I'm doing is avoiding feeling a sensation. And I've berated fear. I have in the past. I've berated it. I've ostracized it. I've set it apart. I've made it other. And I don't want to do that anymore. I'm realizing how important fear is, how beautiful fear is as an equalizer, as a connector. Fear puts me on even ground with everyone else, especially doing a reading. What is the fear of? It's of the unknown. That's what it is. And together we enter into this reading with a fear of the unknown. We're entering in from this common place. I don't know what's going to happen, and neither do you. What an amazing thing. And isn't that all of life? Isn't that all of life experience? We don't know what's going to happen. And we're equally excited and afraid. Excitement is just an optimistic nervousness, It's just fear without the resistance, without the baggage, without the other expectation, the other negative images thrown in there. That's all excitement is. It's still a form of fear, ultimately. And I'm appreciating it more for that fact. And I'm appreciating that we feel trepidation every day, every moment, even in the security, even in the confidence and the trust. There's still, it's either excitement of, ooh, I wonder what's going to happen, or it's nervousness, or it gets deeper into fear of, oh my God, I'm afraid to find out what's going to happen. But it's always there. It's always there. And how beautiful. What an amazing part of being alive, to be realizing every moment is different. Every moment is new, and we don't know how it's going to unfold. That's exciting. and terrifying and amazing. And it's something absolutely universal for all of us. As subjective as each of our experiences are, that is universal. Love and fear, these things unite us. And they're really a lot closer together than I realized. Love is a scary thing. Loving truly, loving fully, loving unconditionally, it becomes empowering when you move past the fear, when you feel the fear of loving and you do it anyway. Then you feel the empowerment of it. You feel the empowerment of making a conscious choice. I choose to love. I choose love, even though it feels scary, even though it feels vulnerable, even though I feel exposed. I choose it anyway. I make a conscious choice, and in that moment, the fear is presenting me the opportunity to make that choice. It's because of the fear that I'm able to make a choice that then allows me to feel empowerment. I have to feel that fear to understand what faith feels like. There's no faith without fear. There's no trust without fear. That's what those things are. Feeling the fear and doing it anyway. The fear is such a beautiful and important and critical component, and it's there for all of us. Fear is not a thing to be afraid of. Fear is a thing to feel appreciation for, because it gives us the opportunity to stand in our power. It gives us the opportunity to make a conscious choice, to recognize I could make an unconscious choice. I could let fear rule me. Or I could make a choice around it, perhaps in defiance of it, in opposition. It has to be there to oppose us, for us to feel what it's like to stand up and feel our own strength in making a choice that says, no, I do it anyway. No, I choose this anyway. I choose love. I choose to be exposed. I choose what feels like a tremendous risk. I choose that anyway. And I get to feel then the empowerment of making that choice, of opening myself up. Without the fear, I don't feel how amazing it is to be open and exposed and vulnerable. I don't get to recognize how powerful this place is. How vulnerability is the ultimate invulnerability. Right? Because now I'm here, I'm laying it all on the line, I'm putting it all out there. There's nothing else to be exposed. I've put it out there. I've exposed it. And it feels scary, but it feels amazing. They're right there with each other. They're like merged together. It's amazing. And from this common place, I feel such a unification with everyone and everything. Again, we all have this in common. Fear. And we get to face it together. We get to walk forward into it together. We get to be afraid facing the unknown together. That's why I love reading tarot so much, is because that's exactly what this is. And again, it's what we're doing all day, every day, but it's so highlighted, it's so specific and purposeful, and it's so clear that that's what's happening. When I do a reading with someone, they're coming in with an idea, but not knowing what's going to happen. I'm coming in with maybe a vague idea, having no idea what's going to happen. We're both kind of just walking into this together going, I don't know what this is, but let's see what happens. That's so invigorating. That's life. That's love. That's everything. And we get to see it unfold together. We get to witness this unfolding together. We get to walk through it together. And as we do, it gets a little more comfortable, amazingly, because we're facing the fear together. We're choosing to be vulnerable. I am choosing to be exposed. And so we're setting this sort of common container, this common ground, this safe space for both of us to feel afraid and to feel things. And I am here to feel it with you as a person that I'm reading with is maybe more accurate, because it's this, again, collaborative effort. It's a co-creation. I'm acutely aware that there is none of this is from me, and none of this is some special knowledge. The fear properly sidelines ego. It puts it aside. It pushes me into that place of saying, I don't know. I don't have any special knowledge. I do not know what is going to happen here. Whatever happens here, as far as I'm concerned, is a miracle. It is straight up miraculous. For any of this to come out, and I trust it, and I'm just going to speak what I feel, I'm totally exposed in that. I am just purely speaking feeling and surrendering the rest. Whether or not this means anything to you, whether or not you take it well, whether or not I'm even able to string a cohesive collection of words together, all of it is up to who knows. It's all of it is a leap of faith. It is a leap of faith every single time I do a reading. And that's true on both sides. And that's why it's so powerful for me. But I'm just realizing, too, how powerful the connective experience is in all of that. And transformative, I believe, ultimately, utterly transformative, just at the core, for us to each be entering this situation and saying, I feel afraid, but I'm going to expose myself. I'm going to expose myself to you, my vulnerable bits. I'm gonna hold them up, and we do that together. And what better way to transform fear and for us to feel each empowered individually and connected than for us to hold up fear. I mean, that's just the baseline. That's what we're doing. We're holding up fear and saying, okay, here it is. Scary. Let's look at it. Now let's look at it. Let's feel all the things. What are the details of this fear? And we do it together, and we do it with an equal amount of trepidation. The fear pushes me to surrender outcomes. It pushes me to clarify my desire. It highlights my desire for me. I feel afraid because I want this to be meaningful. Because I want there to be a meaningful connection. I want this reading to be an experience that both of us walk away from saying, wow, something magical happened here. That's what I want. That's my desire. And the fear highlights that. And it pushes me to surrender. It pushes me to give up the outcome. To really say, I do not control this. I have no control over this. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm doing it anyway because I want to find out. So, fuck it. I'm satisfied. I resolve to feel satisfied with myself just for showing up. Just for doing it. Just for going in there. That's enough. Doesn't matter what happens. I feel satisfied with myself for feeling afraid and doing it anyway. And it gives me that chance to feel empowered. It gives me the chance to surrender. Without fear, it wouldn't be surrendering, right? I'm not surrendering to anything if I don't feel the fear. It gives me the chance to do this, to integrate, to feel fear fully, to experience it fully, to recognize it as a friend instead of an enemy, to say, I am going to include this in my experience instead of saying it's not supposed to be here and trying to get rid of it, to talk myself out of it. I am going to embrace, I have the chance to embrace an emotion, to embrace another part of me, to embrace another manifestation of source, of presence, of divinity, and include that in my being, in my experience of self. And then I get bigger. From that, self gets bigger. There's just more of me. That's just more of me that gets to come through now. And so then I can walk into the experience with fear. And be fully present, because I'm not pushing out a part of the present. And when I do that, magical things unfold. Magical things happen. They just do. Every single time they do. If I go into it with ego, if I go into it trying to prove something, it gets sticky. It gets hard. It gets uncomfortable and unpleasant. And I've noticed that I attract individuals, I attract people to the reading who are on that wavelength. They're coming into it with ego. When I go into it with fear, actually, and the fear is humbling, the fear introduces humility, because here I am, knowing nothing, embracing the feeling of knowing nothing. And I attract people who are on that wavelength, and they're receptive. They're on the same page with me. And amazing, beneficial stuff comes out. And it feels fucking good. And I want to do more of that. So I just want to, I want to say thank you to fear. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for having pushed you out. I'm sorry for having made you a second-class citizen in my household. I'm sorry for having rejected you. Thank you for being there for me, fear. Not to protect me. See, that's the thing. Fear isn't there to protect us. And that's where we get it kind of screwy. But it is there to connect us. It is there to test us, to push us into empowerment. It is there to give us the opportunity for surrender. For all of these deeper, more meaningful, more delicious things. It's a teacher. It's not a protector. It's a teacher. And it teaches with opposition. But again, without that opposition, we couldn't learn our own strength. And we couldn't understand the beauty of allowance, of surrender, without hardness, without something pushing us. We couldn't understand what it feels like to be soft, nor what it feels like to strengthen, to firm, but not in a way that is mutually oppositional. To flex. It gives us the chance to flex, to build our trust muscles too. Trust and surrender. The other thing that I just am really appreciating about tarot and all of this in general is that it's also what fear does for us. I mean, there's just so many layers of it. The value of having falsehood presented, right? So we're a part of building the trust muscle is building discernment, learning how to be the authority for yourself, to take personal authority, to take your power back into your possession, to say, I know my experience, I know myself, I know what feels right for me better than anyone else does, because I am me and I am experiencing me. I also don't know better for others, because that's for them to know. That is for them. You are to experience yourself and to know yourself. I am to experience myself and to know myself. Each of us is to be our own authority. But the way that we hone that too is internally. And that means we got to be presented with some bullshit internally. To be presented with something that says this is what you want, this is what you believe, this is the path that you take. And for us to cultivate the awareness to feel that doesn't feel true for me. I understand where this is pushing me. I understand the fear is saying go over there and go quickly. But that doesn't feel like what I want to do, actually. There's a need there, there's a force, there's a compulsion there. It's a drive, but it's not a desire. And I have the chance now to tell the difference. I gotta know some bullshit to know what truth really is. The more that I know bullshit, the more that I know truth, right? So that's another thing that really fear gives us the opportunity to do, is to hone our discernment. Is this the thing I really want? Is this the thing I even really believe? Where does this thought come from? What is the basis of this thought? What is the feeling at the core of this thought? Is it fear? Because then I know it's not really mine. It's not genuinely mine. But I can dive into it too. I can see what it's covering up. What is that fear trying to hide? What painful emotion is that fear pushing away from? Now I get to go into that. I get to feel that. I get to release that. Amazing. All of this because of fear. All of this exposed because of fear. My discernment increases. My experience of release. My capacity to release. My capacity to feel. I'm starting to have a hard time believing that fear is anything other than love. But it's this inverted love, except that it can't do anything but operate in the service of love, really. The only thing that it can do is serve love. I mean, that's just true of everything. Suffering serves the release of suffering. All of the stuff that appears to be the opposite or the absence of, it really just pushes us towards the truth. That's all it does. That's all it can ever do. And so maybe it forgot. Maybe it forgot that it has taken on the greatest role of all, that it volunteered to do the dirty work, to do the hard work, to play the role of adversary. That is the greatest gift. That is the greatest act of love. For this energy to play the role of adversary so that we could learn, so that we could test ourselves, so that we could grow. And of course, this is more of ourselves too. It's not something other. It's not anything outside of ourselves. This is the part of you. This is the part of you that volunteered to push against you, to challenge you, so that you would have the experience of standing up, of knowing your own truth, of knowing yourself. This is what enables us to know ourselves. How fucking miraculous is that? How beautiful is that? The fear enables us to know ourselves, which is security. It's fear that's allowing us to experience true security. And that is just beautiful. It's fear that is pushing us into and allowing us to experience true connection. Fear that would appear to divide us is actually in service of our connection. When we just embrace it together, when we embrace fear together, what a wonderful opportunity that is, to embrace our fears together. Instead of fighting our fears together, that's what creates opposition. Fighting our fears, a war against what we're afraid of. That's where all the opposition happens, because the fears are diversified, right? Even though they're really centrally the same, this fear of destruction at the core, they express in a diversified way. And so then we go, well, your fears aren't my fears. We have different fears, and in fact, our fears are opposite. So we fight each other. If we could just say, I feel fear. If we could realize it's not actually about the thing you're pointing at. It's not, this thing that you think you're afraid of is not what you're afraid of. It's just the unknown. You're afraid of the unknown, and that's what death represents, is a total unknown. We cannot see past that point. We don't know. We have no sensors that can be sent over there past the veil of death, past that threshold. Even though there are plenty of people who've gone past it and come back, still, there's just enough that we don't know, that the mind doesn't know, or it doesn't want to trust one way or another. That's the fear that unites us all. That is the only thing actually that we're afraid of. The fear of the unknown, which death represents. But that fear of the unknown is also present in the unfolding of every single moment. Every single moment is a kind of death. Because everything is constantly shifting. Nothing is the same one moment to the next. If we can face that together, if we can unite in our fear of the unknown, if we can recognize that all of us feel it, that all of us have that fear of the present, of actually fully facing the present and saying, I don't know what the future holds, and the past is gone. All we have is right now. And that's scary. That feels scary. If we can just face that together, we can feel the empowerment of embracing that together. I have never felt more alive than when facing the unknown, facing death. Which again, it feels like the same thing to me. That's what death is. It is this great unknown. So facing the unknown feels the same. And I feel alive and invigorated when I am embracing that. When I'm embracing the uncertainty, the unknown of this moment, the continuous unknown unfolding of this moment. It's terrifying and invigorating, and they're really the same thing. And I think the unification of all of us lies in that, in the realization and the allowance of that. We're all afraid. We're all feeling the fear of this uncertain life experience. And if we could just admit that, how humanizing that is for all of us to be bonded, to enter together into the present moment through this same passage, unified in this, arm in arm in this. We don't know. We don't know. And that feels frightening, but also amazing. We can feel simultaneously the untapped potential, the unlimited potential of not knowing. When nothing is known, everything can be. Anything could be. And we get to walk into that together. We get to find out together continuously, on and on and on, to keep discovering and to keep uniting in our continuous sort of trepidation in this. But then that's what is allowed to become excitement too. Anyway, I think I've rambled long enough. This just feels big. This is big for me. This is big for me. And it is humanizing in the most beautiful way. Fear is beautiful, and I am so grateful to everyone that I have been allowed to share fear with, and who has chosen to be vulnerable and share fear with me. What a gift it is for us to hold fear up to one another and to share in that experience. And I know that that is a commonality that I share with every other human on this planet. I would love the chance to share fear, to face it, to embrace it, to accept it and acknowledge it with everyone. Have a beautiful, invigorating, enlivened, impassioned night. I love you.